Alright, so we are on page number 2 with my scrap series, and this is called Family Game Night. So with this particular one, I wanted to use up some of my stencils. It's a pretty old product that I have been hoarding, but I felt, I don't know, I was looking through some of my stuff lately, and I felt like they're still usable. Why am I not using it, kind of thing? And so I pulled them out, and they are actually pretty useful product, and I don't know why I stopped using them. I think it's because when I got into die cuts and electronic die cut machines, I felt like I didn't have need for them, but they're pretty useful, so I'm glad I held on to them. So I'm starting off with a black cardstock, and that's going to be my base, and of course I cut the inside piece of that so I can use it for a different project. And then I have this uh, polka dot, or not, a black and white dot paper, and that's going to be my background. I'm using three 4x6 photos, and they are all horizontal in shape. And then I have this piece of 8.5 strip of journaling that I am going to adhere with that. So I believe the black and white paper is the only full sheet of 12 by 12 that I'll be using here. The rest are scraps. So found this, I think it's called hexagon. The hexagon shape in one of my templates, and so I decided that I'm going to use that. The inspiration from that was the board game that me and my family were doing had hexagons on the actual board of the game, and so I decided to mimic that with the background, or with the papers that I am cutting out. And it just so happened that I had the hexagons, so it was perfect product for me to use for this particular page. So if you don't have any templates, you can of course use your die cut machine for this, but you can also cut out shapes from your computer, and then cut it out from using a little thicker medium, maybe a cardstock, so that it will be a little bit sturdy, and then use that as your stencil to cut out shapes from the pattern paper. So I've cut out a few of them here, and as you can see, some of them are just the design are just simple papers, and then another one, as you can see, that kind of picture with some flowers. I made sure that I centered my template on that so that I can cut out the whole shape. And so the title I've also cut out with some letter stencils, but I felt like the word game night was very blockish, and so I needed a little bit of kind of movement to my title. And I remember that I have this script font stamp from Echo Park, and so I am going to stamp the word family there. Now when I stamped it in the beginning, because it is kind of a calligraphy type of stamp, that I wasn't doing it right. Like the A was a little bit too crooked, and so I just inverted this piece of scrap that I have and then redid it. And I love how stamping on a very subtle pattern paper adds a different effect to it. I am going to fussy cut the word, but because the paper has a distressed look to it, that this whole piece that I am cutting also has that distressed look. So it just has that very subtle design, but I like it better than just if I would have stamped it on just a simple cardstock piece. So there is my my word, and then I'm going to incorporate that with the rest of my title, which, like I said, is game night. And I did cut that out from pattern paper scrap, and it's the I think it's the wood grain one. Okay, now I needed to make sure that all of these hexagons that I'd cut out will stand out against the background, and so I'm just inking the edges with, I believe I'm doing it with some vintage photo. I might be wrong, but it's just a very dark brown distress ink, very close to black, but not quite black. just inking up the edges of that. I did have another 3x4 paper. I believe it was from Simple Stories, but it had a house with a heart on there, and so I just cut out that piece, and that's going to be part of my embellishments. So like in the first video, I used paper for embellishments. I am incorporating that same technique with this particular page. So now that I have that all inked and all cut out, now I can design my background piece with my cut out pattern paper scraps. So I pulled out that black cardstock because I didn't want my I wanted my shapes to kind of go over the edge, but I didn't want them to be adhered onto the black cardstock. I wanted the black frame around my page to stay, and so that's why I pulled that out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off the excess of this before I adhere it onto my black cardstock. Just adhering that, and I did cut each of the paper twice from the pattern papers that I pulled out for this particular page, so that I can sprinkle them onto the page. And there's some certain consistency because you see a pattern on one side, and then you see that same pattern again on another part of the page. I'm sorry my head is in the way. I wanted to make sure that all of my photos are aligned, and so I just had to get in there, right? So sorry about that. But I cut this strip of green paper just a 1/4 inch, just to have a little bit of color on the left side, because it was feeling a little bit busy, or lonely, I should say, not busy. And then I'm going to adhere the house with some fun foam to make sure that that's raised, and that's my embellishment there. The center photo that I had some white space, I would say, and so that was a good place for me to adhere some embellishments and also tuck in my journaling. Now, the journaling piece, if you've been watching my videos, know that I have been pre-printing my journaling a lot lately, and before I even start the page. And so in this particular one, if I were to do it again, I'd probably not print my journaling on this long strip because it was harder for me to incorporate it. I'll probably print it as strips of paper so I can adhere it on top of those hexagons. But I mean, it's already printed. I don't want to change what I've done just so that it'll fit the design. I feel like it will work. So that's what I'm trying to incorporate here, is I'm trying to find a space for this journaling strip, and I found that if I add a vellum piece that would go for the title and the journaling, that would work better for this particular design. And I am going to move that a little bit because my daughter's head is right onto the end of the journaling piece, but it all worked out. And so now that I have my title and my journaling and my photos all set, now it's time for me to decorate. And I did want to add the date of this particular memory with some mini or tiny alphas, and these ones are from My Little Shoebox. I used to be in their design team, and so I still have a lot of their products. And but if you don't have this particular one, I know that there's a bunch of other companies that have tiny alphas, like Making Memories. I know that Simple Stories has them, and I think Cosmo Cricket has them as well. And then I have these phrase stickers from Simple Stories, and they work really well to just add a little bit more not just design, but words that incorporate with the photos that I have. Before I go, I want to tell a little bit of a story of the photos. They're just photos of me and my family. We go to California once a year to visit my extended family, and it just so happens that this night my brother and my sister-in-law invited us to their house and introduced us to a new board game, which was really fun. And so now that I've done all my embellishments, just final touches here and there, which are enamel hearts and stars from My Mind's Eye, and then I'm going to call it good. If you have any questions, make sure that you leave it in the comment section below, and I will catch you on video number 3. Bye, guys.